Hello and welcome to Plus Sports on Plus TV Africa. I am your Plus host, Mikhail Tinubu. Welcome on the show. I am joined this evening by Gboyega to discuss some of these stories with you. Gbenga, good evening. Gbenga, it seems we're not hearing you. Hopefully you can join us. But before then, let's get started on the
I
very
can hear
first
you.
story. Okay, Gbenga, good evening. Welcome on the show.
Good evening, Mukal. It's nice to be here. It's been a while, though.
Yes, it has been a while. As is typical during the off seasons, during the period when clubs go on hiatus, preseason, clubs are going through the motion of trying to clear out some of their players that they no longer want and to recruit new players that they feel can take them forward into a new season of hopeful progress and successes. It tends to be that a lot of the stories we get in football tends to be, you know, transfer related news. But for today, we're doing something a little different. We are avoiding, purposefully so, avoiding football because, there's so much of it out there that it will still be there tomorrow and the day after. Some of the stories we're hearing are still in their rumor stage right now. Less confirmation, less progress in some of the discussions and negotiations going on. When you consider stories like the Onana deal from Inter Milan, as Manchester United attempt to bring in a new goalkeeper, hopefully one with less, who's prone to less instances of lapses in judgment and errors. It seems Chelsea have taken a step back from that particular attempt to bring Onana to the club, and Manchester United have a free run at him. But we haven't gotten much progress on that deal and many others like the Chelsea pursuit of Caicedo. So for today, we'll focus on some other sports and we'll start right here in Nigeria as Ibrahim Yahuza, the assistant coach of Nigeria's national Taekwondo team, is appealing for greater financial support to aid the country's preparations for the upcoming African Championships scheduled for next month. The team encountered a setback earlier this year when they were unable to participate in the World Championships held in Baku, Azerbaijan, due to insufficient funds. Concerned about the team's prospects for the Continental Championships in Ivory Coast in August, Yahuza emphasizes the need for additional financial assistance to ensure their participation. Insufficient funding has already caused a delay in the commencement of the team's training camp, as there are inadequate resources to support the athletes during the crucial preparation period. While commending the support provided by Abdullahi Saidu Baba, president of the Nigeria Taekwondo Federation, Yahuza called upon others to step forward and contribute and acknowledged the president's significant personal financial contributions to sponsor events, but emphasizes that additional support is still very much in need. The African Taekwondo Championships are set to take place in Abidjan, Ivory Coast, on August 12th and 13th, and Nigeria aims to participate at full strength with adequate financial backing. But we've heard this story before, it's not new. Failure to prepare well, and largely due to a failure to allocate sufficient funds. Sure, when these athletes go abroad and they come back, we'll welcome back with open arms if they've won. We'll give them all the kudos. And while they're going through the motion of participating in the tournaments and competitions, and if we see them doing well, a governor here, a president there, will promise that they will get rewarded for their efforts. And oftentimes, it just seems like we're willing to reward effort, personal effort, but we're not willing to contribute to the development of that effort during the preparation stages. And of course, when they don't win, everybody goes back to status quo because the money isn't going to be doled out, not to the degree that it was probably promised if they won. And at the very least, the governor or senator or president that promises such top prizes gets to keep the money and doesn't have to uphold any promises since the athletes themselves couldn't get the job done. Time and time again, our number one issue has gone back to how prepared are we for tournaments. And there's another story that I'm going to visit, but talk to me about this particular story because Taekwondo, it does happen. We have heard a lot about Taekwondo. We are very aware that Nigeria tends to participate in international Taekwondo competitions. We see it in secondary schools. So it's an avenue, it's a legitimate sport that a lot of participants from Nigeria participate in. So why is it that we're still finding it so hard to put our money where our mouth is during the stages of preparation?
We still haven't gotten to that point in Nigerian sports where we have even focus on the different sports aside football, right? Even when the former Minister of Sport, Sunday Dare, was there, more attention was placed on football. In fact, more attention was placed on the national team. In fact, more attention was placed on the Super Eagles of Nigeria. Because even in football, not all aspects of football were resolved, right? So, talking about Taekwondo in Nigeria, Ibrahim Yahaza is right to come out to say there is problem. There are no resources. Just this year, the Taekwondo team failed to participate in Baku, Azerbaijan for the African Championship. Why? They didn't have enough money to make the championship. As we speak, the same team still don't have enough funds to kickstart their training sessions for camping. And like he said, talking about Yahaza, he said these championships are ways in which the valuation of the team can improve. There are ways in which the team can build credence, it can build statistics, whatever it is that will help them stand among their peers from other national teams. So I think as a country, we still haven't got to that point.
This
on this thing.
You talk about how we've not gotten to that point, and even under the previous minister, there was more effort, more attention paid to sports, to football in particular, and even more so to the Nigerian men's team. But we saw at a point when the Nigerian men's team was stranded abroad. I don't know if
exactly. I just mentioned that even in football, not even all the aspects are resolved. We are talking about, okay, we are not talking about the FIFA Women's World Cup, but if we talk about it, we will definitely highlight the back and forth between the coach and the NFF representative. We talk about the bonuses that there were rumors that the girls even wanted to boycott their first game before the captain came out and said, no, be so. So it cuts across board, right? For Taekwondo, back to Taekwondo. It wasn't even our initial thought. Taekwondo didn't start because a Nigerian established it. Taekwondo started in Nigeria by an Ivorian, a Cote d'Ivoire. If you check the history, in 1975, it was a French-speaking sports administrator that introduced the sport to Nigeria. He was further helped by his then leader, I think his name was King Yunfei. He's also a grandmaster in Taekwondo. Nothing Nigerian about the origin and the history of Taekwondo. So till now, we are still playing catch up. If you talk about the president of the Taekwondo Federation, if you talk about the coach of the Taekwondo national team, if you talk about the assistants at the moment, how many of them have merit in the world of Taekwondo, both domestically and internationally? We have to start from there. Until talking about solutions now, until we begin to put the right people in the right position, have a world-class administrator at the helm of affairs in the federation, have a world-class coach taking on these people, somebody that has the belt, not just on paper, but we've seen what he has done. Just recently, I watched the press conference between Anthony Joshua and Dillian White planning for their boxing fight for August 12th at the O2 Arena in London. If you see the trainers of those individual boxers, you will know that they have credence, they have merit. And Tony Joshua had the audacity to sack his former trainer because he saw something in the new person he was about to appoint. But in Nigeria, before we appoint people, we just appoint somebody that we can pay. We don't actually appoint somebody that can do the job. And that is where the problem is.
Well, if there's this level of incompetence that goes on at football's level, and football is the number one sport, where bonuses are not getting paid, where players aren't getting their wages for months, where players are getting stranded abroad and leaving a bad taste in the mouth of Nigerians and embarrassing the whole country on an international stage. What hope is there for the future of the development of other sports federations who also require a lot of attention, a lot of resources to go forward? I'm speaking, of course, of burgeoning sports like cricket, like table tennis, like even chess, Scrabble. All these sports, they are intricate and important. And because, funny thing is, when every few years a sporting movie is released, whether it's about a coach in Uganda who teaches a bunch of children how to play chess and turns them into world champions or competing at world level, and uses it to raise them from poverty, or it's swimming, or it's tennis. All of these movies, when is there going to be a Nigerian story about strong leadership in a sport that carries us all the way to the world stage, where something we weren't recognized for once upon a time, suddenly we are considered the very best or one of the very best at it? What chance do we have?
I don't want to sound like a prophet of doom, but I would relate this to the basic socioeconomic issues in Nigeria. Like I told a friend, and I will repeat it on this show. I think Nigeria, the way Nigeria is shaped, the thread in which Nigeria was thrown out from, we are not an association kind of country. We are not a country that thrives under structure. We are not a country that thrives under one person is in charge of a group of people, and those group of people are known to achieve something great together. However, we are a country that thrives under individuality. So we have individual players that are good, and probably they have a good coach or a good handler that makes them do great things. Football, 1994, you can begin to mention the individual players. Yes, Nigeria did great things. We're number 5 in the world. We got to a round of 16 twice, but it was more about those individuals, the Kano Nwankwas, the Mokachi, the Yekines, the JJ Okochas, rather than the team, right? We also suffered that in AFCON when we played in the AFCON. Look at Toby Amuson, for example. She is not thriving because Nigeria Athletics Federation is thriving. Toby Amuson is thriving as an individual, right? Look at the Nigerian-born boxers and combat athletes all over the world, Kamaru Usman and the likes of them. They are thriving individually. So
usually,
I struggle to see how we can resolve through the federation.
Usually we see in the world of sports, we usually see how one federation, one association, or the other comes up with a plan, puts it together, and orchestrates it over a 10-year period to develop great talent. And usually when they realize that level of development across the board for a bunch of their athletes, what we end up calling those athletes is a golden generation, a generation stockpiled of talent. So if we look back at the 1996 era of footballers, and we say that they were individuals who just happened at the time to develop together, and that was why we were so good. Are we ever going to get a true golden generation in Nigeria in any sports?
We can actually, because at the end of the day, you have to build on your strength. If we know that we thrive on individuality, we can tap into that, right? There are a lot of teams let's go club-wise now. There are a lot of football teams or teams generally in the world who they've thrived as a team. Man City and the rest of it, Barcelona. There are teams that have thrived on individuality. Real Madrid thrived with Galacticos when they had individual stars. Thrived when they had Ronaldo, Benzema, and Bale, Modric, Casemiro, Cruz at the top of their game, right? Real Madrid weren't really known as a squad, but they were known as a crop of individual superstars. So we've seen both parties win as a group and as an individual. So if as a nation we understand that we will always have problems if we are focusing more on what the federation can do, rather let the federation get an expert in Taekwondo as the president. He may not necessarily be as an athlete, but as an administrator. Then get an expert who's the head coach. Get an expert who's the assistant, like the person who's coming out to run. Get an expert as the technical director. That is when we can actually do something.
You know,
but if we are waiting for the federation as a people, we will never get anywhere.